there, and welcome to my YouTube channel. It's called Art for Life 70. My name's Richard. In the previous video you saw how I used my light box to make a tracing for painting the watering can onto watercolor paper, 140-pound cotton watercolor paper. Well, before I decided to finish that drawing, I decided I would do a practice drawing because I believe in practice makes perfect. And so this was the original one, and you've not seen me color it. So in this video you're going to see me paint this, but I reprinted it so that I'm going to retrace it so that the watering can is in the middle. It's going to be the only thing in it, and I'm going to show you my techniques for painting the watering can. When I first painted this, my intent was to put flowers up above it. Well, I quickly realized after looking at it, I couldn't put the flowers in because I had painted the handle. So in a future video I'm going to show you how I actually put flowers in this version to make it look more complete with a watering can with flowers in it. So in just a second you're going to get to see how I paint this. Okay, so this is the setup for my painting of my watering can. I've got the first version I did here as a reference. I like this particular painting, but there are some improvements I can see I need to do. I only used 2 colors of green, and I'm going to use more this time, and some of the shadows aren't right, so I'm going to have to fix that. So here's my tracing. I've got my clean water, my dirty water, my clean water, my paintbrushes, my little eyedropper with water in it, my baby wipe on my glass cutting board. I have a particular palette I like to use. This is a 7-well palette, and I do have 7 colors here, and so I can dedicate one section of the palette to each color if I need to. And if I need to mix, I can always clean one out and mix 2 into one and then clean it or whatever. I didn't use any mixed colors on this, not sure I need to. So the 7 colors that I picked are yellow green. This is all from the Munoz half pan set. Yellow green, sap green, cadmium green light, hooker green, deep phthalo green, indigo, and copper. Now the purpose of the indigo is mixing a little bit of blue in with the green to make it even darker. Will make you a different darker green depending upon which one you want to mix. So I will probably mix some indigo in with this. That's an experiment I'm going to try. The next thing I want to make sure you all understand is that this is the tracing that I finished before. This was a previous tracing, and as you can see, I'll try to bring this a little closer or see the comparison here. I have taken a kneaded eraser. That's a kneaded eraser. It's from Faber-Castell, and the link information is below. So you take a kneaded eraser, and I'm going to do it just a little bit here. I'm going to roll it on the graphite, okay? And you can see how the graphite just comes right off, okay? And so this is not only good for cleaning dirty spots, but it's good for taking off the layers of graphite before you start painting, so you don't have so much graphite in the final painting. Okay, so you can now see that that is a lot lighter. Okay, and you can see the graphite on the kneaded eraser. So what you do is you fold that around, you knead it. Okay, and that sort of disappears, and after a while you get a new one. I buy these in packs of 4, so I always have some extras. And so Now you can probably see that those two are about the same lightness, and so we're just about ready to start. So I wanted to add one more thing before I started painting. I want to explain why I moved the pans of paint to a new box. Several reasons. One, I like to have a matching color chart that matches the positions of the colors, because sometimes you can't tell the difference between that one and that one or something. So this is a travel box from Winsor & Newton. Okay, they're great little boxes. They come with a small brush, holds 12 paints, and you usually buy them with Cotman watercolors, and Cotman makes great watercolors. Cotman is Winsor & Newton, and so I use these for travel, and I also use them for this. When I want to pick certain colors that I want to paint with, this allows me to, when I'm done, keep this swatch with the finished painting so I can reference what colors I used. And usually what I'll do is I'll write on the back what happens. By the way, this is Arch's watercolor paper, so I always like to even use 100% cotton paper for the for my swatches. So that's why they're in this box. Start with the copper and the copper handle. I'm going to use my eyedropper, and I'm going to put just 2 drops because I want it to be a little bit darker. I'm going to wet my brush, tap it off the side a little bit, and swirl it around. Try to get as much, I don't, at this point, because it's pure one color, I'm not going to use the palette yet. So I'm going to, my intent here, by the way, there's always a little bit of water when I do that, so I'm going to wipe that off on the ferrule of the brush. Okay. So what I like to do is with the as dark as I can get color here. It's not getting as dark as I want. Here we go. Let's try that. Alright. Need a little bit more water. This copper is sort of like a metallic paint that's hard to get flowing. Tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and put a little copper here and put some water in here. Get my bigger brush. Get my really good size number 4 brush. Get that wet. And really swirl this around a little bit. The reason I'm doing that is because this is sometimes hard to get the color out. This mixes it up a little bit. Then you can add it in over here. That's going to be diluted copper because I put it right in the water. This corner is going to be the concentrated copper. That's my phone going off. We're going to ignore that. So I've got at least 2 shades of copper now. Okay. And I'm not going to paint with this brush just because it's too fat. So I'm going to dip it in here, wipe it off, dip it in here, wipe it off, and then we'll try this one again. Alright, so I'm going to get a little bit wet, try some of this darker copper here, see if that'll get me going. Yep, that's what it is. Okay, you're about to find out here. You're about to find out here how slow of a painter I am. Okay? I like painting, therefore I do it slowly and carefully. So I'm going to start using voiceover at this point so that I can explain better what I'm doing, because I'm going to be chopping up this video to make it small, a bit shorter in time. What I'm doing right now is outlining the copper handles, in fact, all the copper pieces of the can. And so that outline is going to take a while, and I'm going to come back when I finish the outline. So now that I've finished the outline of the copper parts of the drawing, I'm going to switch brushes to a Princeton Snap size 0. And with that brush, I'm going to fill in all of the copper colors inside the lines outline that I just painted. While I do that filling in, I'm going to make certain edges of the copper darker and lighter, depending upon how the shadow will be. So you can see that I'm just finishing up coloring the interior of the copper pieces, and making sure that the light and the darker shades are in good order. And what we're going to do next is let this dry thoroughly before we start painting the green colors. So now I'm going to start painting the green colors, and I'm going to use a Princeton Snap size 2 round brush. And I'm going to make note of the colors that I'm using. The first color I'm going to use is the deep phthalo green, and that's fairly dark, so I'm going to lighten it just a little bit with a small amount of the hooker green. So you see me here giving a very light sort of color. I wouldn't call it a wash, but it's a light tint of this green mixture. And I'll be back in a minute to show you how I actually use the same paint to provide a darker shadow. So with the same color, now that I've got one layer down, I'm going to put a second layer down, sort of glazing down, to make it a darker shade of the same color, to show a bit of shadow on the left side of the watering can, green watering can. So now I'm going to mix up a deep phthalo green only in a separate well, and make sure it's nice and dark so I can paint the interior of the watering can. As you can see, I've already finished the spout and all the rest of the can, and now all I have to do is finish the interior. The interior is going to be a really dark deep phthalo in the bottom of in that opening of the can, but toward the lip I'm going to lighten it up a little bit with some hooker green. So while I'm waiting for the paint to dry, I want to show you what I do to do a little bit of cleanup, just a quick cleanup. So I'm going to clean up the paint in my 7-well palette here. I have a safety squirt bottle, information below, and I have a baby toothbrush that used to belong to my 3-year-old grandson who chewed it to death, but it still works great as a brush. It has a suction cup on the end, which is what I like. Okay, so I'm going to squirt a bit of water in here. Okay, and sometimes you can see that the paint sticks to the bottom. You just swirl it around with an old brush and grab a Kleenex and just dry it out. Okay, this way the paint doesn't dry in there, and you don't have to worry about it. Now you can see in this one that a little bit more paint is stuck to the bottom. I'll just swirl it around like this, dry the paintbrush off a little bit, and then grab a Kleenex and dry it out. So that's my little trick for using an old baby brush, baby toothbrush, and a squirt bottle. So I'm going to use the same two colors I've used before, the Hooker's green on the bottom and the deep phthalo green on the top. And I want you to note that the deep phthalo green is made up of a pure yellow and a pure blue pigment, and the Hooker green has the same two yellow and blue pigments plus an additional pigment called PG7. This is important because when you're mixing paints, I'm not mixing them here, but previously when I mixed those paints, I verified that to make sure that the pigments would be compatible when you mix them. And both colors have the same light fastness, and they are both transparent. So what I'm going to do now is do the final layer of glazing over the previous colors to get them a bit darker and richer, and just to make the paint more vibrant. This also gives me the best time to add any highlights and or shadows where I need them. Since this last clip is 13 minutes by itself, I'm going to skip to the end and show you the result. So this is the painting as a full-size 5x7. This is a close-up of that so you can see the details. And this is the painting in a matted frame. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.